Hello, everybody, and let's exit to port. It is currently 18:02 on the 28th of August, 2023, Central European summertime. I am in glorious Bavarian gray weather, which makes me feel like I'm not melting. And so is my ever effervescent and down to the ground, low center of gravity friend and co-host, Mr. Grumbles the Dwarf. How you doing, Grumbles?
Hello, I am effervescent and elevated.
I can't the first time I introduced Skype Cthulhu as effervescent on the Friday streams, he was like,
You get what you want now?
I mean, I think it's a nice way of describing people, even though they might not feel that is, um, what they're like.
No, I think it's always. I think it comes across positive, but as you said, people might be like, "That doesn't describe me."
Indeed. Anyway, we have a good episode for you today, and I do want to point out I am indeed in a bit of a different setup, so things might sound a bit different from my end, but they are, I dare say, they are a bit better than last time I did a recording from Germany. So there's that.
Yeah, last time Tiger was connected into the call via a tin can and a bit of string. Also, can I just say before I forget it, because I think it's funny and I know it's disruptive, but when we were just ending that effervescent conversation, I thought, imagine saying, "Here's Dante, the effervescent Dante," and him going, "Bubbles there, mate." Now I know that I've got Diurach giggling, so that's task one complete.
I wish I had my bleep button, because then I'd do an impression of Dante going, "I'll give you bubbles." Yeah, he's always got an answer to those sorts of comments. We're going to dive straight into the big and bubbly world of wargaming, where they've it just says news from wargaming on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube, and you know what, potentially also for those of you reading the description, if you're watching this on or listening to this on Spotify or other more audibly directed platforms. But we have quite a few things from wargaming now. They've gone ahead and given us quite a bit of updates. There's new graphics and animations, which I have to say, I'm impressed. There are some of them that I'm still trying to get used to, and some of them that might be solved better, but seeing shells now bounce off your ship, I think that's cool. I think that's really cool. And also seeing shells actually overpen when they overpen is also something that I really do appreciate and enjoy. However, I think the biggest talking point is the new sounds. What's your
I have
initial
one question.
Yeah?
I have one question about the shells.
Yeah.
Is that why sometimes now it looks like the shells kind of don't hit, but then they do?
Yes.
There's like a little delay. Okay, because they're like traveling through the ship and then they're registering.
Exactly.
Okay. That's helped me not be as confused sometimes when I'm watching shells travel. Also, the ricochets. I saw some the other day and they ricocheted off and they had like the colored tracer. So that was kind of amusing. But yeah, the sounds. Here's my take on the sounds, right, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
it's a double strike. It's both immersive and confusing.
They still have some adjustments to do. There's no doubt about that. But like overall, I'm
Mm-hmm.
really enjoying them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I
go ahead.
struggled at first. And then I put it back to like standard or whatever, and then I changed it to cinematic stuff or the effects. And now, like I played a little bit earlier just to test it out, and now I love the immersion of it. It's got
Mm.
way better for me. Um, Maybe some levels I still have to play with, but it does feel more immersive. But I'm still confused because I'm so used to so many years of it like just being this arcadey game and getting like this instant feedback all the time, and now the feedback is partially still there, but it's reduced or muted to some degree.
Yeah, and you know what? I was playing together with the StatsBloke and TC yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed one thing as I was sailing in with my Schlieffen. I turned the camera around and I kind of listened to the sounds, and as the bow dug into the waves, the audio was in sync with the crashing of the wave across the bow.
Mm.
That, like, either I got super lucky or they have made an impressive step to actually sync that up. And if they did, that just brings that level of immersion
Mm.
slightly closer. Like,
Mm.
some might say that we don't really need that as part of an arcade game, but I'm like, you know what? Give me these things. I
Yeah,
want to enjoy it. It's a gorgeous game.
yeah. I'm all for it if I can, once I get the leveling right. I would say when I'm playing, it's totally cool. It's really cool because I can like crank it up and just enjoy all of the things, the little whistle of the wind
Mm.
sometimes as you're moving or when your planes dive down and that kind of thing. And but when I think of it as when I'm streaming, I'm like, how can I get all of these levels right without drowning me or music or whatever out? Don't know. So I still have to do some fine tuning. But when I'm just playing, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, they really stepped it one step extra forward. I feel with these,
Mm.
and I'm looking forward to seeing what else they can do with this, because it feels like they've made some changes in the background in order to go further with it. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing more and more maps being remade and given new looks, and I enjoy it. I do. So yeah. So new sounds, new graphics, new animations, new information tab on ships too. You were actually the one who made me notice this,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, go ahead and explain to the viewers what it is we've been given.
Yeah, so they added at least for the premium ships. I'm just clicking around now to see in port because I just noticed it might not be, but like on the premium or maybe the specials as well, I'm not sure. They've added within the equipment subsection an area in the middle left, just above the carousel, called features, and it's got a bunch of icons that you can mouse over that eventually you'll get used to what they look like, so you'll know them at a glance, but they tell you some of the sort of characteristics of the ship. So, for example, I'm looking at my Cossack B. It says more credits on the first one. It's got beneficial service, so costs less than post battle. Unlimited commander replacing, so very good for new or returning players who may be kind of forgotten about that. And permanent bonus, so because it's got a bonus package associated with it as a premium ship, and a permanent camouflage that it came with. So they're kind of listing all of the different key features relevant to any of the premium ships. At least I need to try and find a special one so I can compare it. They don't have that for all of the tech tree yet, but I don't know to be well. I'll see if I can find one, but we can continue the conversation anyway. Maybe there's something if you do buy a package for a ship, maybe it appears on there if you add
So
it. I'll see if I can find
I,
one for
I
that.
I think it probably does as soon as you do. But one question I have as a CC,
Hmm.
didn't you also see that it had a test ship, or was that the thing we wanted it to have too?
No, there was a test ship thing as well. So when you are on a test ship or a rental ship, they those appear as characteristics of that ship on that bar.
I
So
I
that's pretty cool
really I
too.
really like that because that pretty much means to me that they've started categorizing and giving not archetypes, but there's tags to ships, meaning they have meta information on them basically.
Hmm.
And that's kind of something that I've been asking for. So I'm hoping that we're seeing a further development of that. Um, to explain fully what it is I want from this is like we all know that yes, the Flandre and the Lenin are battleships. That's where the similarity of those two ends. Because the Flandre is not a tank, and I wouldn't call the Lenin a long range sniper. It has 18-kilometer range, but that's about it. So I want to see kind of like the um Lenin has archetype tank. It will give you more base XP or like a bonus to XP if you have a large amount of tanked damage on that.
Hmm.
And opposite where the Flandre has its role as a long range sniper or whatever you want to call it, like something like that, then you would gain bonus XP for being, I don't know, outside of 15 kilometers when you deal large amount of damage to enemies, or something like that. This is
Hmm.
just an idea and thought, like the archetypes to be able to enable players to play more towards their role of the ship rather than everybody bitching at the Groningen for not spotting, you know,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's not a ship meant for spotting.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I understand. I
So
wonder if they'll go that direction. Hmm.
it would be cool to kind of see that, but I think they would have to change too much of the game in order to do that. But let's
Hmm.
just put that idea out there because
Hmm.
to be fair, and I apologize about the sirens in the background. There's nothing I can do about that. But to be fair, a lot of the stuff that we've kind of mentioned that this is a good change is stuff that has come to fruition, not just for wargaming, but for other things too. So let's just
Hmm.
see if we can manifest this, huh?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing then, because I'm just looking at a couple of the test ships,
Mhm.
and there's quite a bit of variety actually. They've got some things in common, like if it is a test ship, and that seems to be restricted to like an NDA test ship, for example. It shows the rented feature, and it's got other ones like you can't earn achievements for this,
Mhm.
and no statistics accounted for that ship. And then if I look at a different ship like the Essex, which is there for the special testing of the new features and the special game mode, it's got a different one saying participation in events as a special feature. So yeah, they're giving additional information um, tailored to the ship, or at least the category and what the ship's intended for in your port at the moment. So it's quite interesting to see where they can go. In theory, they could extend it, or yeah, but they've done it nicely. It's nicely drawn. It's good sized, and yeah, once you get used to it, you'll know what that is at a glance. And I think every bit of information like that helps. We still don't have something that shows you on the carousel that's a test ship, but it's obviously very CC or super tester specific
Yeah.
request. Yeah.
Hopefully, someone at Wargaming will be listening, going, "Oh yeah, that could probably be smart for them, so that they don't accidentally click on a ship that's not even supposed to be on screen."
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that is actually a thing that can happen, people. Anyway, that's very very limited issue kind of thing there.
Yep.
But something else that is new in the world of Warships is the new English community manager and other languages, Mr. Killerman, longtime friend of the channel, and has been a moderator and friend of StatsBloke for a long time, who has been um, a guest on this podcast before. And Killerman is a historian by school, so
Mm.
hopefully he'll be able to jump in and really help them out with a few of their historical podcasts and so on that they do. And and there's actually a lot of interesting videos and such that they do on that. So if you're a history buff, I would suggest going checking that out, honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
we want to say welcome to Mr. Killerben, and maybe we'll have him on the podcast. Well, I mean, we did that with Chag, so
You
it's
know what I'm curious about is what are the other languages? Because I could be wrong, and maybe we need to save this and ask him if he does ever choose to come on here with us. But as far as I know, his two languages that he's fluent in are English and history.
You're not wrong, but no, much like Chag, picking up and being the CM for me. I'm Norwegian, but I speak English. But
Mm,
it's simply other languages that don't fall into the larger umbrellas of like um, German CCs have their own contacts, French CCs
right.
have their own contact, but yeah, it's just other languages that might not be as big. So
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's that,
I'm
but
I'm
it
I'm
would
not going to
be.
make any snarky comment about Americans. Okay.
Uh, okay, striking that from the protocol.
I'm joking. I love you, Americans,
Uh,
even if I can't understand you.
as someone who speaks a heavily Americanized accent, wanna wanna say, fine, you can't have the biscuits. No, I'll still send them to you. Yeah, that's pretty much a quick roundup of what's going on in wargaming, and I want to lead the question out to the audience there. If you have noticed anything that you like or dislike about the new sounds, or about the new graphics, like there's wildlife, like there are sharks, there are whales, there are dolphins, there's stuff going on in the waters now. So if you've noticed any of them, got a story? Tell us in the comments or on our discords, please.
I want to add on that
Mhm.
just before we move on. I didn't know that there were those different animals and sounds in the game. I just assumed that was Grumpy. But there you go. Today I learned.
uh, yeah. No, I'm shutting up. Grumbles.
Got him.
Anyway, we're gonna continue on and talk a bit about other games that have taken up our interest lately.
Hmm.
And I think we're gonna start with one that you played and that I had a good chuckle while you were playing, and that is I Am Future.
Hmm.
Because we're going to talk a bit more about the setting, or you are at least, because I just kind of sat there and giggled and looked at you waffle your way around this rooftop. But the thing that made me giggle was the character creation.
Hmm.
The character creation was simply, well, there's no other way around it. It was me,
Hmm.
you, or Grumpy Beard.
Yep. It was. It was the grumpy. The grumbling does post-apocalyptic survival.
Yeah, and it was bearded man with no
Yeah.
hair, bearded man with
Yeah.
little hair, and bearded man with a lot of hair.
Yeah.
That
It's
was,
great.
I smiled and giggled a lot when I saw that. But yeah, talk to us a bit more about the setting and what goes on in that.
Yeah, so it seems as though a world, I'm not going to say like Earth because there's some inklings or whatever, but I'm not entirely sure. You know me in details. But anyway, a world, the world that your character's living on or wakes up on, seems to have been flooded and just gone, fallen apart kind of thing. And you were in some sort of cryostasis or like taking a nap in a pod, and that seems to have gone wrong and woken you up like 5 6 years later instead of after a couple of hours nap. So you're very confused, and you bump into a bunch of NPCs, which the first one of which is a refrigerator
Yeah.
with some with an AI built into it, and you just start learning a few things about what's gone on, but not really, because everything's all kind of messed up and confusing because there's not been anyone around or feeding you information or whatever. So, yeah, and then it just kind of goes from there. You've got to do the usual go around, collect a few resources, learn a few things,
Mhm.
and start trying to survive, get some food together, that kind of thing. But it's just it's labeled as a cozy post apocalyptic survival, and it really you really feel
Hold
it.
on, hold on,
Yeah.
hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Cozy post-apocalyptic?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
like for me that's quite the contradictory in terms,
Mm-hmm.
there's something that doesn't match up there, but after having watched you play it and the conversation you had with the fridge and
Mm-hmm.
this seagull that interrupts the cryo sleep,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, yeah, yeah, no, I actually do see it. And s- like story wise,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that drives this game?
So it's once you get the basics in place, and you're not sort of passing out from hunger or whatever, you there is a day night cycle and some sort of infestation of strange creatures and plants that are toxic or hazardous, and you've got to kind of work your way through that. And some of them eat or feed off of electrical items. So like your only contacts, as it were, are these various devices, so you don't want to let them get chewed out. And what drives it is just you have some sort of like amnesia, and it's kind of as you'd imagine, like, who am I, what is this place, or what is this place, or what's gone wrong with this place. I can remember some basic things like how to walk around and eat and whatnot, but I have no clue really what's going on here. So, and you just kind of, so you have this thirst for information, and you start eventually reaching out and trying to see, is anybody else still alive, kind of thing, which I think all sort of instinctual level activities. And that's kind of what drives you forward. And eventually, for example, you're stuck on a rooftop. So it's like, are you just going to live on this rooftop forever? Or
Hmm.
are you going to try and get down somehow, or find a way around? And clearly, everything's gone completely to pot. So yeah, it's got some nice humor laced into it. It is. I'm not too sure actually. I haven't looked up the details because I kind of got it as a bit of a last minute, as it was a gift actually, from a community member. Thank you, Wolf Cannon. And yeah, it totally. I was just like, oh, let's just give this a go today. So I played it blind, and I just had tons of hours and hours of fun with it. And I need to get back to it at some point. The usual first world issue for us content creators, but it's just really fun and charming, and it's got a few little things where you think, okay, I would tighten this up a little bit or change this. It's kind of from a developmental point of view, but the core of it and the humor and everything, it's got that magical sense that you get of they care about this.
Hmm. Nice. I like that.
Hmm.
I really like a game that makes you feel like they've like you feel the effort and the lack of a better word here, drive of the dev to have you part of the story.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that.
Hmm.
But speaking of cozy,
Mm.
we've both been playing Palia or Palia or whatever how you want to say it. Like they say Palia, but I say Palia. That's
Mm-hmm.
uh, I randomly stumbled on this key as it was just like it popped into my Twitch inventory where it
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, here's your Palia key." I was like, I didn't request the what? Where's this coming from? Thank you, because I think it was Shelby Gunner who had said, "Yeah, this is going to be a really chilled out game. It's going to be cool to do with friends, and so on." And initially, I sat there and I was like, I see no end game. I see no need for this to be an MMO." And then suddenly we started playing a bit together. We went fishing, did a few other things together, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to see it now.
Mm-hmm.
There are cooperation elements in ways that are different than all other MMOs, and I do think it was Chegg who described it as a retirement home for old MMOers. He's not wrong, is he?
I don't think so. I bow to his far greater experience, but I can totally see what he means because there's no real threat and there's no real competition, and it's more oriented towards collaborating with one another. I think that's a good way to describe it.
Like the collaboration is it's not just through your friends, your community, or whoever you have in a party. The simple fun thing about this is if I hit a copper vein once, one other person comes up and hits it once, and you have three other people hit this once each with their worst copper or their worst mining picks, all of us get loot. All of us get something from this vein. And I do
Mm-hmm.
believe we all get the same thing, even.
Mm.
So if I get some high quality thing from hunting an animal and you shoot the same animal, we both get the high quality item from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like I'm so used to fighting all the other players for any other resources.
Mm-hmm.
An iron vein, everybody runs for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so used to fighting people for it, but this, like, if you see someone running up, there's nothing wrong with stopping and letting them also hit it,
Yep.
because then you both get something out of it. And I mm, I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Yep.
that is not the end of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So we went fishing,
Yep.
and the cool thing was, like, yeah, we can stand there and shoot the shit and talk by all means, and that helps. But for every one person that is within X amount of meters of your character while you're fishing, and they're also fishing, like you cast you cast and catch quicker. Like it's quicker to reel in and actually catch a fish the more people are around you. And
Soft fishing.
I think that is absolutely a fabulous cooperation mode.
Mm-hmm.
You're no stranger to fishing in games. Like how do you feel about that as part of the aspect?
I think it's great. I think it is absolutely like in the cozy end of the scale kind of thing. It's like super easy, but it's not like single button click. It's like a little bit of a mini game to it, but it doesn't. It's not harsh towards you. There's no real penalty for getting it wrong or whatever. And yeah, I like it. There's a variety of how the fish behave. as part of the different rewards, and the fishes themselves can have different meanings or benefits, or be part of a quest or whatever in some circumstances. So it's kind of Palia. I didn't know what to get out of it at all. I just kind of played that blind as well. I was like, saw the video, and then somebody gave me a key because I am a dingus who doesn't read Twitch notifications, so I didn't know I had a key already. Anyway, um, yeah, I was like, I spent about a week thinking, oh, I really wish I could play this game. It looks like it's quite fun, and I've got just enough time before Atlas. And then I realized 8 days later I had a key sitting there all along. I just hadn't noticed it. But anyway, thankfully somebody gave me one, and it's a game that looks like, oh, this will be nice and quaint for a couple of hours. I don't think it'll have that much draw to it or that much depth. And then all the depth is there, but it's like subtle. It's not in your face like overwhelming. It's just, well, you can have this, and then this leads to this and this, or there's this and this variety. And before you know it, the 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to play this for 2 or 3 hours and then move on, just to have experienced it, turns into I don't know, what year are we in?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's not just fishing as a game mode. All the different all the different collection parts of it is, so you have bug catching, where you're running around and throwing smoke bombs at bugs. You have fishing, you have hunting, you also have foraging, which includes both being a lumberjack, but also picking flowers and other plants. You have gardening slash farming, and then you have furniture making and mining, of course. Did I forget any of them?
I mean, that sounds right, but there's probably other things I haven't even seen yet.
So those
That
are
sounds pretty good.
Cooking, of course.
Cooking, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So the lumberjack part of it is fairly easy. Find a tree, chop it down. Get a better axe, chop down a bigger tree. Get a better axe, chop down an even bigger, and so on and so forth. However, we found these purple magic trees which heal up, and they actually require quite a lot of cooperation to take down, unless
Yep.
they're of the smaller part. So, and I've seen some of the biggest ones, and they required a group of like 6 or 7 people to actually take down. I thought that was fun.
Yep, it's cool.
Then you have the hunting part, which actually, when you start getting to the other zone of Bahari Bay, then there are magical animals, which requires you to either be multiple people hitting the same target at once, or having access to the right equipment. And again, as long as you've shot that animal, you will get the reward, and that's kind of cool. Fishing, you get a fishing buff when you fish together. Cooking is actually something you can do together, and everybody who is part of that cooking process, like, let's say we have 4 people. One person flips the steak, one person chops the garlic, one person bakes the potatoes, and one person uh, stirs the butter into garlic butter. All 4 of them will get whatever it is that is made once all the skill checks, like the tiny mini game ones, have been made.
Yep.
And I think that's really nice.
Yep.
So most of these things have a collaborative element, but the only thing where I haven't really seen a collaborative element is the building up of your homestead. Like, I could help you out by giving you materials, by putting it directly into the house you were building, but there's no real there's no trade. There's no way of doing that. Like, you can request items from others, but you know what I noticed? You can only request items you've actually had access to before.
Oh.
So let's say you've never found gold in any of the veins, you couldn't
Yep.
request gold from me in that case.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Kind of cool.
yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about that because I still want to be able to help my friends in my community by going, okay, so you need one gold ore. Here you go. I I think there are other ways of limiting it so that you don't game break it for someone
Hmm.
or you just power level someone for lack of a better term. I think there are better ways of doing that, but yeah, you know, there's something there. I think they could adjust, but
I mean,
I'm
it is still in early beta, right? So.
it is, and it's free to play.
Hmm.
We forgot to mention that it's actually free to play. So if you want a good place to kind of chill out and relax for a tiny bit, lose yourself in a place that there's no combat, there's a tiny bit of hunting element, but that's about as close as you get. There's no
Hmm.
competition. Uh, Palia.
Yep.
Use
Check it out.
use referral code Grumbles the dwarf. No, I'm not sure. We both have referral codes though. I want to point that out, but I think you've hit your full one on that.
Yes, mine's done.
Yeah.
So we started in the community. We started to put on my Good Vibes Discord a channel where you can use the looking for group channel, and we encourage everybody to just put their codes in there. Because everybody just gets 5. So once you're done, you've got all the rewards from it. You might as well let someone else have that bit of fun.
That's another thing that I actually enjoy about it. It's yeah, it's free to play, but it's not sitting there. Oh, you have to bring your friends in and play. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not screaming in your face about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not making you feel guilty for not recruiting 20 friends every single week. No, it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
get 5 people and you get these things. Well,
Yep.
what if I require more? I don't know. If,
I mean, it could change as well in time, but right now they've also got their premium shop, but that's not shoved down your throat every 2 seconds either.
no.
And it's only for cosmetic stuff. So yeah, it's got a good vibe about it. It's really fun, really chill. Yeah, the only thing you got to watch out for is the usual thing with an MMO. Don't no life it and find that 4 years have passed and your friends and family have left you.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's a danger in Palia, honestly. It's a nice little game to touch on and then, set up your farm, maybe go do the thing and then log back in a few hours later and just do some weeding and make sure that your worm farm isn't exploding. Yeah, it's those things.
Some of my community member are going to be actively shaking their heads when they hear that. But yep. You know who you are, people.
Yeah. Speaking of people shaking their heads, there are probably a lot of people that will be shaking their heads at this clickbait title. Baldur's Gate 3 is boring.
I want to state for the record that I tried to pitch it as unpopular opinion, and Tiger changed it to clickbait. So that's fine. That's what got through the A editorial meeting.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, yeah.
is it an unpopular opinion that you don't enjoy something everybody else does? Like I
No,
don't mind.
it's obviously meant tongue in
Yeah,
cheek.
yeah,
So,
by all means.
um, yeah, because it's had such popular, responses and everything. I
Yeah.
think it's great. It's just not for me. I'm not really into that kind of game. I kind of knew it, but I thought, well, it looks that good, so maybe it is that good, and it's a different experience. But the net result is I've tried very hard to like really get into it and enjoy it, and I've enjoyed the sessions on stream because of the community and chat. But the game itself, like I haven't played it for whatever a week and a half since the last stream we did of it because and not just because of Atlas, obviously, but I'm just not drawn to it. The problem I've got, or not the problem I have with it is, you are stuck at a certain pace. So whatever sequence of the game you're in at this point, in particular combat, because there's a lot of combat, you're just stuck. You can't speed up. You can, the only way you can slow down because you can just not move and not do anything for the quest. But everything has got a set pace. And normally I love slow paces, but what I really like, what I've realized through that, because that's what I've always said to people, it's nice to be able to set your own pace. Typically, that is a slower pace. In this case, I find that it's too slow for me, for my taste, or for me to enjoy it. There's too many like little filler moments and gaps. But again, I've just learned that that's not really my cup of tea as it is. So
How do you think you'd enjoy it as a multiplayer game where it's it's a group playing together and fulfilling their roles and cooperating through it and then having more people to bounce conversation off of that? How do you think that would work?
I think that could be fun. I've watched this very limited amount of multiplayer on it from a couple of different people, and I still felt like the pacing was a problem. But of course, when that's then viewing it and not being part of it.
Hmm.
So I think that if you go to the extent of, like, making silly stories together and really like playing your little characters, like almost role playing it, I think that has the potential to be a lot more fun for me. However, I am not sure how well it would work because you are, um like, it'll sound more harsh as a term, but you're kind of railroaded. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
this is overall, and which makes sense because it's a story game, and here's the beginning and here's the end, and there's a few little deviations, but overall, right, it makes sense. But I would be concerned that the railroaded aspect of it, or the fixed story aspect of it, if you will, um, and then just the slow pace that the combat always seems to run at, would be a hindrance to everybody. Kind of, you don't need everybody to be like well focused, and it's the difference between maybe if you were playing some D&D and you're role everyone's role playing, but you're just kind of relaxed. It's not on a stream or anything like that, and you're just chilling.
Hmm.
So you can pace it based on like reading the room and knowing how everyone's feeling, and what's working well. And in that, I don't know how well you could do it because you're not in control of the pace as a group.
So next question then is,
Hmm.
would you would you enjoy it more as a game just to play for yourself? Like if you weren't on stream and worry about the pacing of the content, would that change things?
No, I've tried playing it off stream. I tried restarting with different characters to see like different animations, different voices, different spells or abilities, and that. And the net result is I just don't play the game.
All right.
It
Okay.
doesn't. I just don't start it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Not everybody is supposed to enjoy everything. That's how simple it
Hmm.
is. And I will be bringing this conversation up if you ever throw a hissy fit about pineapple on pizza ever again.
Are we
Note
done
this.
yet? How dare you, sir?
No, I know that's one of those things that is just always an enter
Yeah.
with me, but I know you don't mean
Yeah.
it like as a this is not your hill you will die on kind of thing.
No, not at
You are
all.
a
Not at
firm
all.
believer in let people enjoy what they enjoy. You know,
Exactly. I've
just
embraced the meme.
just don't shove it down other people's faces, and it's fine.
Yeah. Just never mention it anywhere in earshot of me in my chat. In fact, it's probably just better if you just don't mention it, so you don't have to carry the risk.
Don't leave old pineapples on the doorstep of Grumbles and Eco.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's all those things.
God, I'd almost gotten over that.
Speaking of almost getting over,
Mm.
so we talked a bit about these new tools that Twitch gave us a while back. This whole insight and so on, and I had like a moment Oh my freaking god, Twitch. Because on the dashboard, like the creator dashboard, where we see these insights, and to explain to people, this is supposedly data that Twitch thinks you need in order to better your stream or things that could be popular on your stream. And I'm just going to read what Twitch showed me on August 6th as part of this insight. And I say insight with quotation marks for a reason. Where Twitch shows up there and goes, "Hey, did you know 54% of your viewers also watch World of Warships? If you also like it, try it out on stream. Was this useful?" My god. You'd think they'd have access to the data they need to know. Grumbles.
Hmm.
Why?
Yeah. Let's just say it still needs some fine tuning.
Fine tuning? That's not fine tuning. That's
Hmm.
very coarse tuning. That is, has this streamer played World of Warships within the last 30 days? Yes or
Yeah.
no kind of thing.
Yeah, I had the similar thing. I had the whole, hey, you might like to check out these streamers. It's like TigersDen. It's like, have you? So you don't look at any data like who plays together, or maybe like even within the partner subset, which
Yeah.
is easily achievable. From a data volume and analysis point of view. But yeah, so they could use a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was an honest to God facepalm moment for me. I just
Hmm.
but like they're still working on the tools. I'm not going to just shun them forever just because of that. Because I know also the evolution of some of these tools and how they get better. So I'm curious what they have to bring for me next.
Hmm.
And I'm also very glad for what they do to make this better, simply put. Uh, yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly along to other content creator things, also from Twitch.
Hmm.
I think we should probably talk about the featured clips first. Like we're talking about new features
Hmm.
here, so why not talk about featured clips?
Yeah.
Uh, I think we mentioned it, but I'm not 100% sure. However, this
Hmm.
is a cool feature. It's about discoverability. What's your thought on it?
Yeah, I like it. I think that they've done it as a sort of a short-term phased-in type thing, where aiming at mobile first, so tablets and phones, smartphones. But I think even in early August, they already extended it out
Yeah.
everywhere. And I know it's still being added in a few places, and no doubt some countries, and there might be whatever reasons where it's not everywhere. But I think it's fairly universal now, so to speak. Um, it basically gives streamers and their editors, so not standard moderators, but moderators with advanced editor permissions, the opportunity to go through clips of the channel and just tag them, just a checkbox. That's all it takes, and then I think you click save or whatever, and or add as featured or something,
Yep.
and yeah, you can choose which clips you want to have used in Twitch's various discovery tools and algorithms on the different apps and websites and things. Um, it allows the streamer and their close knit team to steer what is presented in the discovery feeds, and regardless of who made the clip. And I think it's pretty cool. A really important part of the feature is that ordinarily the creator of a clip, so viewer ABC, whoever, can choose at any point to delete the clip or even retitle it. Which is, could lead to some interesting moments.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you select a clip to be a featured clip, those rights are disabled, so you can't change the creator of the clip can't delete it or change the titles of it. So I think that's a good safety feature for the streamer, because you might pick a clip and then somebody goes, "Oh, I'll be a smart aleck and I'll change it to Grumbles as a poopy pants or something,"
Yeah, exactly.
and then you're showing that as a featured clip. I have to say as well, from a consumer point of view, I've seen it on my tablet device with the Twitch app. I can't remember seeing it on the website yet, but probably use that less often. I've seen it pop up. These are a couple of features clips for you. One thing I hadn't picked up on, and then I'll shut up about it, but is that it's intended that after every stream you go through and pick your featured clips, so that it keeps refreshing and pumping that new data through into the
Oh.
algorithm. Yeah.
Oh, I
So
wasn't aware of that.
what?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how, like, if I didn't stream for a week or something, does that mean it's not there anymore? So I need to do a little bit more digging or reading. It wasn't in their high level articles, or there was the FAQ, but I didn't get through all of the questions yet. But yeah, they do recommend that you go through and just tag them after every stream if clips were made. And it's a nice way to encourage mods and viewers to make clips every so often as well. Yeah, and I've seen clips from other channels. Like I saw a couple of Chegs this morning when I was just briefly browsing, and it was like, check out these latest featured clips from one of the people you follow, and it was like, oh, that's cool. So there's two levels, there's two sort of categories or whatever. There's people that you follow, and
Mm.
those will pop up in some areas of the apps and the websites. And then there's general discovery, or when you're browsing categories and looking for things. And there's going to be also, I think on the main page, there's going to be a little section that is, here's a bunch of recently featured clips.
That is really nice. It tells me that
Mm-hmm.
they've kind of taken to heart the wish and want from streamers to have more discoverability tools on Twitch itself,
Mm-hmm.
and not just through YouTube, not just through TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. It's they are taking to heart that streamers want more tools that are innate on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited about that,
Mm-hmm.
because like another thing that they've done with that clip feature um, is not just featuring here. It's the easier ability to export to YouTube Shorts, and I know because Mike Minton and Tom, who recently left Twitch, Tom Morelli.
Oh, Vermerelli. I know there was
Yeah,
two different ways to say the name,
yeah.
or two different names he used. So yeah. Anyway, Tom.
He the content and the money guy. They
Mm-hmm.
they said that they are also working um on a direct export to TikTok, which is
Mm-hmm.
big. That is a big thing, because not a lot of platforms have access to do that, and I think that's cool. That means Twitch has put in some work,
Mm-hmm.
and really are starting that journey, and other things that they've put in work with, like we mentioned last time. There's a collaboration with Pretzel, but I'm not sure if that's still up and running. Anyway, the fact that they're doing this and promoting more and more um uh, discoverability, it's good. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we're starting to be listened to more and more, and again, as part of this, I want to bring up the podcast that we talked about. I'm not sure if it was last time or the one before that, but the Drop Frames one with where they have
Mm-hmm.
Tom Moretti, whatever, and Mike Minton on. It was a very good podcast, very good interview.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and speaking of Mike Minton and monetization on Twitch, SubTember is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Might even be passed when some of you guys are listening to this. I'm not judging. I'm just a bit disappointed. No, I'm kidding. So SubTember is something that Twitch has every single year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's where they're promoting the use of subscriptions and gifted subs and so on. And they switch it up every single year. The first year where I was able to be part of SubTember, it was just all subs. The ones you resub
Mm-hmm.
to, the gifted subs, everything. That was for a full month.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year after that, they did something where it was only the ones you resubscribe. And then
Mm-hmm.
there was something about only new subs. Like there was a weird one. But I'm going to quickly read through the 2023 things.
Mm-hmm.
September is an annual celebration that offers discounts on subscriptions for new or upgrading subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
September starts August 31st, 2023 at 10 a.m. Pacific time and is until October 1st, 2023, 12 a.m. Pacific time. This year, September includes multi-month discounts. Hello, brain. 25% off on 1 month subscriptions, 25% off on 3 month subscriptions, and 30% off on 6 month subscriptions. Starting September 26th, 2023, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, gift subs are 25% off until October 1st. Like
Mm-hmm.
previous Septembers, the following restrictions apply. Discounts apply to the first term of the subscription, for example, the first month of your supply sub or your monthly sub. Discounts are available on purchases made on web only. So not through phone, not through anything else. Web only, Twitch TV. Existing subscribers are not included unless you upgrade to multi-month or higher tier subscriptions. Prime subscriptions are not included unless you convert them to a paid subscription. So,
Mm.
and they have a full FAQ what purchases are eligible for discounts. But we're not going to go through everything on this. They also list very specifically which subscriptions are not discounted. So, existing recurring subscriptions, mobile subscriptions on iOS and Android, Prime
Mm-hmm.
subscriptions, and subscriptions set to cancel in September and continued before the subscription fully expired, and new turbo subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they also talk about how you can tell if your purchase will earn the September discount. Something about the price breakdown and discount and so on, or in
Mm-hmm.
the price breakdown in the checkout. It's called. I'm
Mm-hmm.
stumbling on words. I'm sorry, everybody. Um, I'll leave a link to the FAQ for those of you
Mm-hmm.
who are early listeners if you want to read through that. But my first thought, I'm going to share with you afterwards. But first, I want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on September and everything that's
So I need to read the articles because that's one I haven't gone through yet.
going on?
I partly because I have the sort of vague understanding that it's not as um beneficial to streamer and by proxy community, in the sense of, if they, those that are able to and choose to support the streamer in that way, as in previous iterations. I saw some pings about the possibility that if people pick up the 6 month um subscription during that qualifies, that's the best way for them to get like a year. They get 6 months free or something. The price somehow balances out. And the kind of meme about it was like, I wonder if Twitch actually ran the numbers on this, because if people do a 6 month sub and get a year, I don't know. But I'd have to go back and read it all. I don't have the facts, but I just remember seeing those articles going around, like with Zach Busey, and for more reputable,
Yeah.
I think co-commented on it and stuff like that. So apparently that's the best way to get your year's worth of thing for half price or something. I don't know. I always struggle a bit with the idea of trying to sort of promote and push these things, because I and I know you are too. We're very conscious of the fact that, people that can generally do, and people that choose not to for whatever reason. Often it's because they want to, but it's just not comfortable, affordable, whatever. And in addition to that, there are other alternatives. I don't currently offer any, but I consider it too, because even with my mission to give most of it to charity, if I can increase that amount, then it means more people get help. So I don't know. I feel like it felt like it was a cool idea a little way back when, and now it feels, I don't know, like they're just using the legacy of the name or whatever in the idea. But again, to reiterate, I haven't read all the articles and looked at any numbers. So, bottom line is, if you can afford to and you want to, and that's a way. I mean, we offer, both of us, like really cool emotes and other things, and access to sound bites and stuff like that. That's really fun and helps, you know, give us confidence and continue what we're doing. Go for it if you can, and if you can't, don't worry about it and don't feel under any additional pressure.
No, like
That's
we
my
like
take.
that's something we always reiterate when it comes to charity, and I do believe we should probably also do that whenever it comes to bits and subs too. And I actually talked a bit about it on stream today. There's a reason why I stopped being full time, and it's not just to do uh with with me feeling the stress of having to create content all the time, but it also has to do with I felt like a burden on my
Hmm.
community. I don't want to feel that anyone should be pressured into doing these things or such. So very good points you touched on there, Grumbles. I can only echo them
Hmm.
loudly
I,
through this. So yeah.
I do have one additional line of thought based
Mm.
on what you said as well, and reflecting on it all. Um, and I know this is an area that I've struggled with, and I think you struggle with, and maybe many do. Um, but for a lot, even if whether it's part time or full time content creation, ultimately this is also, a way of a living, right? Earning a
Yeah.
living. I don't want to say job and all those kinds of things, but this is how we sustain ourselves regardless of what we do with that. So there is another angle to this which I think is very relevant, and sometimes one of those kind of gray areas, or like it feels a bit icky to kind of go into that part of the conversation. But I think I'm getting to grips better with it now in the second year of doing this full time. It is also, you're talking about people's opportunity to market themselves and sustain themselves,
Yeah.
and arguably build from it. And I think there's still a weird, or maybe it's me because I've come from a traditional working experience through most of my life, right? So there feels like there's a stigma associated with it. Like you can't really call this your job or your way of, making a living or whatever. And like I even catch myself doing it. It's like, oh, back when I had the job, or a normal job, or
Yeah.
all those kind of things. And so there's a part of me where I think, and this is probably beyond the SubTember itself, but that's the trigger for the conversation. I think there's a part of it where sometimes I have to catch myself and approach it from a different mindset of, like, not a cold-hearted evil corporation kind of approach, but just like a, let's just be real about this. This is how I sustain myself.
Yeah.
This is how I put coffee on the table. This is how I give money to charity when I can, or replace a broken piece of equipment, or get that upgrade or whatever that's needed. Thanks, Star Citizen, cost me a fortune for extra RAM. That's how that happens. It's
Mm.
not magic. So I think for all the negative and the kind of things that people that dig and pick on these things or whatever, again, for those that can, thank you very much, because it is not possible to do this stuff and exist without that support. So sure, And there's always all these big old conversations about 70/30s and 50/50s and whatever. The bottom line is, it is one of the premier ways that you can offer us some support. And the fact that you're paying, people always laugh about paying Bezos or whatever, and we can't see their books and how they do it. But the bottom line is they are audited, and I'm pretty sure that most of it goes towards paying for the platform and having a wonderful, amazing technology service available that we can all enjoy 24/7.
Mm. You know, it's touching on a very large topic, and I always feel this for the lack of a better term, a disdain for myself whenever I talk about this being an income.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always feel like it's a trigger for people should pay me. Like, no. But I enjoy also being real and honest about people, honest to people about what goes on this end. It's not meant for
Mm-hmm.
pity. It's not meant for anything like that. But it's purely meant for, this is to kind of maybe give a glimpse behind the curtain, so people understand that we're not just sitting here playing video games, and that's it. There's so much more going on in here, to the thought of how we create content, and how we are affected by certain things, like be that price changes, or seasonal events, Christmas, and like all of these things play into how well a content creator is able to sustain themselves. So it's such a large topic, but I here's a conversation I very quickly had on TikTok with Mighty Wrath, who's a fabulous content creator. So many good streaming tips, plugins, everything that goes on for OBS. So if you're a new streamer, you want to learn a few things, go check him out. Honestly. However, we talked very quickly about this because he mentioned the SubTember thing too, and I think I'd rather just see it as a way for those who have excess to gift subs. I would rather see SubTemper focused on the gifting of subs. Like, also give discounts for those who resub during that, but I would rather see it be focused on that gift to others. Yes, it gives us income, but it's also something that someone else is able to enjoy, like the emotes, for instance. Or in my case, I have a tiny part on my Discord which is only for subs and VIPs.
Mm-hmm.
I put some stuff in there from time to time. We talk sometimes there, and I even did a town hall there where it was only for VIPs and subs, and we just talked about the future of the channel, and suddenly having access to these things is also something that people might enjoy, and there are many others that have very different sub perks that they give access to through that, and I think that should have been the focus of September, and not yeah, I don't know, like I think they missed a bit on how can we turn the focus to something that is community building, as opposed to the pure income for a streamer.
Mm-hmm.
uh because I mean, if I could, I would gladly say, hey, there's 10% off on subs in my channel for October or whatever. Yeah. If I could choose that, I would do that from time to time. That way
Mm-hmm.
people could resub and enjoy that as part of a community thing.
Yep.
Uh but yeah, they have a long list of prices, how that'll affect like Germany, United Kingdom, the US, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Korea, Japan, and Australia, as just part of them to kind of show what these prices are. So link will be there. Uh, yeah. That was a bit about our content creation and knowing our role in that world.
You forgot a bit.
No, I didn't.
Did you forgot the bit about talking with devs?
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot to add that in on the Discord there.
We can skip it.
It's on OBS, but it's not in there. But no, yeah, actually, you are right. You are right, and that's me not knowing my role. See, just a quick
Nicely
rollback.
done. Nicely done. Smooth. No one would notice.
No one will notice. We'll fix it in post. No,
Yeah.
that is true. You did mention a very important part there, which also affects us as content creators. It's whenever we communicate with a dev of a game, there are correct ways of doing it, and then there are not so correct ways of doing it. You want to share your experience here?
Yeah, so I'm using the term dev or developers, but I mean publishers in some cases as well, just generally the people that will reach out and help PR teams, that kind of stuff. So obviously there's a huge variety and you get all ends of the spectrum clearly. Even from just doing this a short couple of years, I see quite wild differences. And I just wanted to mention like three examples, two positive and one not so. And some of you might smirk a bit and think he's still holding a grudge, but that's fine. The first one is Hooded Horse, who I think we've both had dealings with, and several of our other sort of streamer friends have too. Diurach was the one that pointed me towards them for their wonderful product Clanfolk, and I just wanted to shout them out in a positive way because they're really excellent with their comms. They've got great, relatively small team, lots of independent developers and small games and things in like super early access and whatever, and they just kind of throw out opportunities and things. There was a mail a week or so ago about whether we wanted a plushie from an animal or creature from one of their games, like stuff like that. But they don't spam you excessively, and the emails are always well structured, come with all the information you need about things, embargoes, access to assets and things you can use, and FAQs, and it's guidance for you if you optional if you choose to read and stuff for spoilers. And they're just super polite and conscientious. You can tell that they've actually looked at what we do and understand like the vibe and what we do on the channel. And I really, really appreciate them. So just wanted to bring that up as a really good example. Have you had dealings with Hooded Horse?
No, I haven't, but everything I've heard from you, Diurach, and others is like super positive and just like you say, well structured, cool PR team. And like the, all the way people are talking about, I get the sense they they either are streamers or have been content creators in some way, shape, or form with the way that they communicate and know that okay, this is how we reach out, this is what we need to have ready for our content creators. And yeah, no, like super positive feedback from anyone I've ever heard talk about them. So yeah, no, I have been meaning to reach out to them about seeing what kind of cool games I could be allowed to showcase for them, because that's kind of how I see them. They allow me the privilege of showcasing something for them, and I think yeah, no, there probably are a few games out there that I would really enjoy after some long conversations with Jurek, for instance.
Yeah,
So
definitely do it. It's really worth it. They're great. Here's an example of a really, really big developing and publish house that don't do that well, in my opinion. What a surprise! It's Ubisoft with their Skull and Bones product. Do not do not make a big shiny thing, which I am naturally attracted towards, and then say, oh, you could sign up for it, and then make it reasonably easy for me to sign up. It was a little bit fiddly, but it was okay. And then start mailing me saying, hey, big closed beta thing, lots of shiny, lots of publicity. Because we're Ubisoft, so lots of people all over the world will know who we are, and it'll be all exciting. And say, congratulations, you've been selected to be part of the closed beta. And then don't send any codes or anything, but do send another email saying, can you please confirm you still want to be part of it and that you've got this PC specifications? I sure have. Let's go. And then radio silence, except for another email saying Skull and Bones, blah, 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 stuff coming later on. So, yeah, that's not how you do it. It was impersonal, fair enough, massive company, huge
Yeah.
player base, etc. So I get that part of it, but it's highly irritating when we are, again, coming at it from a business point of view, when we're trying to be professional and juggle all of these different things, and you get pinged left, right, and center with like, oh, this, and would you like to look at that, and this sponsorship and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? It sounds like a great problem to have, but when your mailbox, starts filling up with all this stuff, and you also sometimes have a bad conscience because you're like, oh man, I really would like to help these people out, or I like this product, but I'm right in the middle of something else or whatever, it actually can become stressful. And then sometimes you're just getting genuinely spammed with just nonsense. It's like, hey, Grum, I'm doobity dee, and I saw your thing, and I love what you do. And then, no, you didn't, because if you did, you'd have spelt my name right.
Yeah.
And you'd mention something about a recent stream or something that you'd reviewed for my content. So, you're just copy pasta lying to me. So there's that, and then I, to round it back off on a more positive note, I got another good example, which was Team 17, who, when we were looking at some of their new
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
on stream, like not sponsored or anything, but they actually just came along and hung out in the chat. They had somebody saying, "Oh, it's really cool that you're playing this. Love it. Love the vibe of the channel. Thanks very much for looking at it." But they're actually just normal chatting, not just like,
Yeah.
here's a couple of marketing sentences or whatever. They were like, "Oh, really enjoying that you're doing this. Thanks very much." And I think they even gifted 5 subs while
They
they were
did.
there.
I remember it because I was there, and
I was
because
so confused.
I had a bit of a fanboy moment because Team 17
Hmm.
developed one of the first games I ever had on the PlayStation 1. Um and the PlayStation 1 was a gift that I got at Christmas not long after my parents split up. But like the amount of hours that I spent playing the original Worms game and hearing these funny little voices and how they react to different things and just absolutely losing myself in that. But I also so clearly remember the Team 17 logo again and again and again, and it's just they've they've filled so much of my upbringing. And so I just said out straight out in chat, like, dude, this is awesome. Thank you so much for all of the things you've done. And they were responding in genuine um ways where it wasn't just, it's this is marketing team X, it was, they showed genuine interest, and then they gifted subs, and they kind of hung around and talked and chatted to people who wanted to know more about it, and I thought it was
Hmm.
really cool.
Hmm. Yep.
I'll be honest, I thought you actually had actual interactions with them first and foremost, so which is why they were there.
It was nothing so formal. It was just like, I'm trying to even look back to how it even started off, but they gave us a key to, it was Dredge, right? So they gave me a key to Dredge. And it all started with them just coming to me saying, an actual, hey, we think this would be something really cool for you. How? I can't remember how before that we ever got connected. It wasn't through like a key mail or anything like that. It was just, I don't know. I've played some of their games. I played some Hell Let Loose. I don't know. I've got a suspicion it might be because of the silly stuff we did in in HLL at some point that might have been done the rounds because there's a few funny clips and whatnot. And I feel like it's one of those things where people will be like, we've not really seen people role playing in this game before. This is kind of cool. So I wasn't alone in that. There was a whole role playing event with Darkside, but it was we did a little bit of that for 2 or 3 streams, and that was good fun. So so then they just reached out and were like, oh, we've got Dredge coming. I think this would be something that fits or whatever, and off we go. So again, professional approach, courteous, factual, and it was kind of like, if you're interested on this, what does it say? She says at the bottom of the lady's email, we hope this game gets you hooked. If you have any questions, throw me a line. They literally said, throw me a line. And they actually sent me, with the initial approach, was just like really well structured and full of detail and pictures and links to stuff and everything. And they just sent me the key. So it was kind of one of those, like, probably that he might like this, but who knows? So they just threw it out there. And it gave me the opportunity to go back to them saying, thanks very much and everything. So I'm not going to read my email back to them, but, it was polite.
Oh, that's actually really nice.
Yeah. And then the fact that they turned up, and that was all it was. And then we got a chance to play it, and it was super, super fun. And they just turned up and were like, hello. So, yeah, those are my 3 little examples, 2 great examples of this is how you could do it. Because it's, for anybody at any stage, any scale of stream or whatever, it's a huge, confidence booster, and it gives you that. For me, it's more of a, oh God, I feel like I'm faking it most of the time, but that makes it feel a little bit less like I'm faking it. Like maybe I've got half a clue, and the people will give you that bit of support and recognition in that way. So it's nice. Yeah. So there you go. That was just the bit I wanted to bring up, and probably nobody hears this, but Ubisoft, do better.
Let's hope there's someone at Ubisoft that kind of went, yeah, we done goofed. Although I do know you are not the only one that had that experience. There were so many that had that exact same experience. So
yeah. You know what blew my mind, Tiger, is seeing that Gassy didn't get a key, and knowing that Burke and Cream were playing, and then Cletus was playing, and a few others in that circle, and Gassy didn't get a key. And I was like, who would not give Gassy Mexican a key for, like, a piratey PvP, like, lighthearted, combat thing? Do you not understand or know who the Twitch ambassadors are? And did you not have a look down the list and think, oh, this guy would be an obvious fit for this product? So
isn't he a Ubisoft partner too?
I don't know, but he didn't, so I think I haven't read it, but I vaguely remember skimming and seeing a post about how Ubisoft have sort of apologized, of like, this has all been a little bit unstructured and not worked as we wanted it to, kind of thing, because there's a lot of people.
How long has this been in development?
Yeah. Exactly.
How long did you have to prepare your marketing team for this? Is how we need to be on the ball here. It's oh my God.
There you go. That's why I kind of thought, let's talk about good and bad examples. Just not trying to shame people or whatever, but just, this is real. This is part of what we do. And I think it tacks on nicely with the previous topic too. So
yeah, no, there's definitely a thought of like, I don't think this is hubris. I think this is actually someone doing a proper goof, and things went sideways and pear-shaped, and now someone's getting a reaming from a manager who was probably the one who did the goof up. But that's the difference. Anyway, moving swiftly along to a completely different world.
Yeah, Tiger, I've got a thing. Do like, because we don't have all the normal. Do the know your role, like, amp up your voice, and I've got a soundbite to go with it.
Okay, know your role.
How'd I do?
I won't lie, that was a bit shit.
Quick, move on. No one will notice. I thought of that when we were in the editorial meeting, and then
that's
I thought, I'll not tell him. I'm going to do it at the time.
it's fair. It's completely fair. Also, after flubbing the setup for the last segue, that's fine. Perfectly fine. Everybody knows we're on a different set. Well, I'm on a different setup right now, anyway. So you know. I thought I had everything with me. Turns out I didn't.
Mm.
Anyway, uh, this is an odd turn of events in Know Your Role where I have something to talk about, and Grumbles doesn't at all.
Mm.
This is strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll probably have something to talk about here because it is the thought of DMing and playing multiple roles, but not just
Mm-hmm.
multiple roles. We're talking familiar roles and names. Let me set the scene for you.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, we sat down here in Mari's apartment, and the party of Apocalypse the Bearded Bear, the longest name on Twitch, his fiance, and a friend of his, and of course Mari, were introduced to the world of Hunter the Reckoning, which is part of the World of Darkness setting where you have mage, you have werewolf, you have vampire. Vampire the Masquerade is part of the World of Darkness. So, for those of you who have been part of those worlds, you know a tiny bit about what kind of setting is going on here. Like it's normally a very dark and gruesome setting. In vampire and werewolf, you play those things. Like you play a vampire, you play a werewolf, like you are those things. In mage, you're a powerful wizard or a fledgling wizard. You're learning to use your magical powers. In Hunter the Reckoning, however, you are a human. There is nothing special about you except that you are fully aware or having an awakening to the supernatural worlds. That's where we begin.
Mm.
So it's one of those systems that really work well for a storyteller type game. And you can also play it action filled by all means. It's a D10 based system, so it's not a D20, but you roll a bunch of D10s. There's different checks and so on. And like the reason why I love it is it allows me a freedom I need. And in this case, like in the charity week that we had this Easter on my channel, we had one element that was really popular last year. So I thought, you know what, we'll repeat it. And it was that I sit down and I make an adventure, like a short campaign, a one-off kind of thing in a role-playing game for you and a party of friends that you want to bring along. Last year we made the adventure for Dante, who had never played before. So we did a very basic kind of introduction to rules, how things work, a lot of metagaming where we talk about what he could do and so on. And this year, I was sitting down and I was like, okay, what can I do? Like, what can I do to make this interesting for Apple? And and
Mm-hmm.
and and to anyone who has ever DM'd, you're now kind of going, oh yeah, we're making this for one person who's bringing in friends, but like he paid for it, like he gave to charity for it. So like how do we make this interesting for him but also his friends? That's the idea going through a DM's mind right now. And and
Mm-hmm.
and before I jump further in, I want to talk to you like how how do you handle something where you know that you you need to customize something for or you need to hook the interest of all people, but you need to also make it feel special for that one person. Like, what's your first in then?
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily say I have one, but I guess in a broader sense, I look for um part of it is in how we set the scene, but also like do the character creation. So about giving them information so that they can think about what their ties and their relation is. So that, because it sometimes it can be a little tricky if you have it all on one side, if it's all on the DM to come up with like, this is why you care. So I've found over the years that it helps to, and then that comes down to the group you have and their experience and so forth. But you can make it as simple or as complex as you like as well. You can do it very simply, here's the map, or here's the world.
Mm,
Where are you from? And bring with you one part of your backstory or your life. Make one thing. So you've got an Aunt Jane who lives here in this fishing village. You know, so there's that element to that's one element to it, and another element is um, kind of playing on the in this, you might flip this around if you're doing a good or an evil kind of run, but if you're doing a typically kind of good or at least sort of neutral kind of thing, with some degree of compassion, and that can vary a lot on the setting and the system too, I guess. But I give them something that they ordinarily would expect, you know a character to care about, and they might care about it in a wildly different ways, or they might act on that information in wildly different ways. But there's a reaction, something that is, it gives an emotional tie somewhere, and it can be a tragedy, a threat. It could be something positive. This thing is about to happen. There's going to be a great wedding. Of these two neighboring empires that have been at war for years, and you could build it up to be a positive thing, and then have something happen that isn't quite so positive, in that way. But that's kind of like my starter for 10, and I've learned and tried to adapt over the years, um, um, not to come in with too much complexity at the beginning, because you need a base emotion, as it were.
mm,
A little bit along the lines of like, why do you care about this, or why would this potentially be important to your character? Yeah, so that would be my starting position, because if you don't have something, and it doesn't always need to be like in the past, I started with a bit more of a blunt, like, here's an existential threat.
yeah.
But I've kind of lent away from that. What I do in that kind of ilk these days would be more of a, you meet somebody that you possibly strongly disagree with, an evil character, or a neutral character, some character with a little bit more depth and nuance to them, or even just a lot of mystery about them, but that they happen upon through some way or other, that has an impact on the world around them, or people typically around, that triggers sort of an emotional response. But also often I will make that somebody that they have um absolutely no possibility to do anything against. Your level ones versus your Lich King.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god! But the Lich King just sees them as like specks of dust, and they're so irrelevant that he doesn't kill them outright straight on in session one.
Yeah.
But they're now aware, oh god, we can't control everything in the world, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Mm.
So imagine, like, for those of you or who aren't DMs and so on, you hear the words that Grumbles just said. You now let's step a tiny bit further back, and keep in mind that this has to kind of be a customized game for Apple. I could just do generic dragon eats a village, you must save village princess or whatever. But that wouldn't be worthy of something given to charity. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of that's my burden as a DM here. I'm going, you know what? There was money given to charity. I'm gonna make something special out of this. That's on me. So at first, I started going through. Okay, what does Apo like? And talk to Mari. And okay, one of the things that I know he enjoys is World of Warcraft.
Hmm.
And I know that there's a D20 system out there for World of Warcraft, which is based on D&D 3.5. So I first started kind of going, okay, yeah, I mean, we can work with this. This could be cool. There are some familiar characters we can bring in. They could play some cool races and have some epic tie-ins and so on. And then as I was sitting down and I started thinking of my own Generation Zero campaign, I started thinking, you know what? I can actually place them in World of Warcraft, but as normal humans from 2023 and really have them be together with these characters, not as characters, but as humans. So from there, I just kind of went, okay, you know what, Apo, give me a list of your favorite movies, your favorite games, your favorite books, places you've been to or possibly want to see, and so on. And just ask them for this extensive list. And then I built a campaign around that. So they started out like the initial thing I told them was that you are a group of friends. You are on vacation in northern Norway. It's July or it's summer, and you are visiting a Viking museum. You've arrived a bit late. You're on the parking lot, and that's where we start. And then we get to introduce the characters and so on. And that's where I get to start having fun. Because this is already when I introduce the big bad evil. And I introduced them to the man in black from the Stephen King novels, The Dark Tower. And they're kind of just paralyzed, not able to do things, and he does something that allows me to further set up this wild journey that they're going on. Um, so I have him kind of touch their forehead very carefully, like with one finger, and then they have flashes of this desert that is the first thing you meet in the Gunslinger, which is the first book of the Dark Tower series. And in that book series, you like that world is dying. It's slowly dying. It's about to kind of just stop existing in its own way. However, it's like how do we get there? Like what do I do? And then the first thing I did, since well they're standing near a Viking museum, well, let's have them transported to the Viking ages. And instead of it being a museum, certain
Hmm.
buildings disappear, the parking lot slowly disappears, but it only does that after they've been and talked to the Jarl of this place, who's kind of coming out for a morning stretch and kind of going, who are you? Because I've placed him there as kind of a guardian to stop people from crossing over, but because they've been touched by the man in black, he's not able to send them back. This is the
Hmm.
introduction to bringing in the Norse god Thor, and who is kind of a guardian of this realm and who's able to send them further forward to the next place.
Hmm.
This is going like They are then suddenly sent to the Lord of the Rings. They are in Rohan. They get to battle orcs. They get to battle trolls. They get to meet Gandalf, and so on and so forth. And with all of these different worlds and characters, and and all the role play they were able to have together with themselves, and also with, for instance, Gandalf sitting down with them and having a smoke, trying to figure out how to send them further on. It's that sort of thing. Or meeting Thrall, Loktar Ogar, friend. Have you come to serve the Horde? So they're in World of Warcraft. They're in all of these different worlds. And me as a DM, I don't think I've ever played as many roles before. But I had so much fun, and judging from their experience, and especially Appo's experience or his reaction, he was geeking out at all of the worlds and everything, because he as a player sat there, I know this world, and I got to introduce pop culture elements. Like there was elements from Assassin's Creed. We we pretty much made Peter Jackson and Tolkien the same person, only uh, that he might also be a time traveling entity or a bit of a magic entity, and there was a whole thing, and there was so much humor and similar. So I absolutely love that. So now I pass the question back to you, Grumbles. If you had access to all of the world's different characters and heroes and these large but in charge kind of heroes, how, how do you limit yourself? Because I think that is the biggest thing here.
That's a really good question, because it could easily become overwhelming. And I've gone through that experience where I've overwhelmed myself by saying I want to weave this, and this in, and then kind of gone at it all at once. I think one of the things I learned, which is it's slightly abstract answer perhaps, but I think it's along the lines of the adage, less is more. So one of the things I've learned is I always underestimated how much a very small, like, event or a piece of lore or whatever can develop into, in terms of like content and elapsed time. So, if I, as an example, I didn't anticipate that. Not a specific example from the past, but you give them a certain item or a book, or introduce them to a certain location or a character, or any sort of light mixture of that, but not too much. And I have learned over the years that I started off really, really, and I still struggle with it a little bit. I started off really, really underestimating how much just a tiny little, like, it's like, what is it, the analogy with the ripple in the pond or something,
Yeah, butterfly effect.
Yeah, or exactly. I just didn't anticipate, or didn't used to anticipate so well, and I think I'm a bit rusty at the moment. Probably I'd have to relearn some of it or remind myself of some of these things. But how this tiny little ripple, like dropping a pebble into a the beach of an ocean or something, how much can come out of kind of this less is more approach? Because I used to over egg it, have so many things lined up that, for me anyway, it was at times almost like stressful, because I was like, oh, I haven't got this and I haven't got this, and there aren't 15 NPCs for them to meet at this place, and what about those 7 dragons that are spread around the world, and shouldn't they all be there, and what's that one doing right now? And that becomes counterproductive. So I think kind of jotting a few things down and putting a pin in it, or whatever the electronic variant, having some notes and things is cool. A lot of the time I find imagery helps me, because I'll be like, oh, there's this picture of this and this. It could be a location or an item or something, and then I've got that rough thread. And I've also learned that it's can be a lot more fun sometimes if you've got the core of what you want to achieve with a certain setting or a certain arc, or piece of a story, but it's completely okay to also improvise around that stuff as well, and say, oh, this I'm going to change this up. I'm going to bring this person or this item in here rather than down the line or whatever, and maybe use it in a completely different manner. So I guess the short, well, there isn't a short answer, but the first point I would do is I'd probably jot down like bullet list. Okay, these are the 69 things I'm thinking of, right?
Mm,
And then I would say, okay, now pick 3,
yeah.
right? Or pick 10. And then from the 10, right, now pick 3, right? And if I have to, just close my eyes and put my finger on one and say, okay, it's that one. And I'd go with it like that, because that also, what it sounds like you've done is you've set up this huge opportunity and all this, like the diversity and all these interwoven elements, and now it's like it's a little bit where both of you and the players could end up in a kind of like, because you don't want to railroad them either, but you could end up in a kind of like, oh, there's all these things, and you have that cool geek out bit at the beginning, but then you can't, it's not realistic for everybody to keep pace and follow along for too many loose threads all at once, if that makes sense. So this is just
So the
what
thing,
I've learned.
the thing I can say that if this
Mm.
had been a longer campaign,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have done this as intensely and with as much as I did. There would have been a much slower introduction. And this is pretty much just
Mm-hmm.
a way for me to use these characters, because what I pretty much set it up as, these 4 characters are the new beginning of hunters of these supernatural beings. And at the culmination of everything, all of these multiverse worlds and people were brought into one and the same world. They all exist within one world, but only those who are awakened and aware of the supernatural will be able to tell that, oh, that's the Hulk, or yeah, that's actually Tony Stark, the Iron Man. Most people will be blissfully ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
They won't know that it's Bruce Wayne standing next to them. It's that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've opened up the world to using those 4 as mentors for other parties that might be starting out with actual vampire hunting or something similar to that, or they learn that orcs are roaming around somewhere, or they realize it through their own kind of, hold on, what is actually going on here, and then they have this event of waking up to it. But in a longer
Mm-hmm.
campaign, it would be much slower intro. There would be much slower, um, like much less going
Mm-hmm.
on. But with it being a very short time that we could do stuff on, and also for such a special occasion, I just kind of, you know what, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind and let them have a glorious nerdgasm of all of these things that they know and love from lore.
Mm-hmm.
So
But that's cool too. I love that idea. Again, you're dead right. Is I was thinking of it more from like a longer term thing. But if you've only got like 1, 2, 3 shot or whatever limited time and stuff, then 100% just throw lots of stuff and just make it deliberately chaotic, because it doesn't matter. Even if it's a whirlwind and subliminally somewhat confusing or whatever, they're only going to focus on the excitement of it moment to moment anyway, because that's how one shots go. You get
yeah,
through a one shot and you're like, holy crap, where did 4 hours go? you
exactly.
know so yeah.
And I did talk to them afterwards, and like, did they feel like they got to use their characters? And everybody nodded. Did they feel like they got time and space to be their character and role play? And then everybody nodded. And then they were like, this is a cool way of opening a potentially longer campaign that can be split into many small bits. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted out of this. And so, so now, if I want to, if I later want to lead a party in this exact world, I have every opportunity of, for instance, so Appo's fiance, she played a character called Edgar Chance, a man of science, who was into the paranormal, and he basically got access to a wand from Dumbledore, but also a magic book from from a library in Minas Tirith that later uh, got a bit fiddled with by Deckard Cain from the Diablo universe, and suddenly
Hmm.
had like this Pokédex almost of anything they could think of. So there's an unknown monster in front of you. All right. What unknown monster? I need to know something about this unknown monster first. So you fight it a bit, and you figure, oh, okay, it's a dragon type monster. What do we know about dragon type monster? And then you can
Hmm.
slowly whittle it down that way. So
Hmm.
I would then use this Edgar character as maybe a mentor for other caster type focused or occult type focused characters, so that they
Hmm.
would be in the more monster hunter occult way of hunting for things. And
Hmm.
this book of his would be like mythical status stuff,
Hmm.
and all of them got to kind of have their own fun there. And like Mari's character would end up being a brawler. Like she got some knuckle dusters that made her punch extra hard. So she got some training from Wonder Woman. Appo's friend who joined us. I'm trying to not use names in case. But Appo's
Yeah.
friend, he was playing more like a tech guy who was a movie buff. He had drones that he got to hang out with Batman and Tony Stark to kind of uh, make them cooler and do their own thing. So he would be more like the tech guy to go to, and I would possibly use these as a I know a guy. You know the
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
rule of cool, or I know a guy rule that we talked about a few episodes back. So I would
Hmm.
use them that way. So it's a big world I've opened up for myself, but I kind of want to play more in it. I won't lie.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, that's great. When everyone, including the GM, walks away feeling like that, that's a good, really good sign. Cool.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's intense being a GM for that many hours in a row, but I loved every second of it. I did.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah. Speaking of loving every second of it, we have some community contributions to go through.
Hmm.
Um, and we're probably gonna do a bit of a quick fire on these and hop, skip, and a jump through them. Sorry, need to clear my throat there. We have some questions from TCFreer. He says, Tiger, yours and Grumbles' thoughts on the changing of the World of Warships player base and the increase in toxicity depending on the time of day you play. We saw examples of this last night with stats, how nasty some people can get the further into the night you get. Is this common in all MMO games, do you think? And for what potential reason? So, to give background, me and TCFreer did join StatsBloke yesterday on stream. He was playing subs to try to learn them, and I said, you know what, I want to join to to kind of put myself in a position of learning how to play together with a sub,
Hmm.
because they're in the game. I might as well learn to play together with them, or potentially learn how to counter other subs or whatever. that part. I saw it as a learning opportunity. But
Mm-hmm.
we did encounter a few toxic people and spicy chat messages. Um, and I can speak from like other MMOs I've touched on haven't really been toxic in the same way. The only other ones I've ever touched on that is an actual MMO is World of Tanks. And I'm not going to say more about that. However, I don't really see a big difference in the time of day. Um, but as we covered in the editorial meeting,
Hey.
it has more to do with how long you've been in the game. What's your thought there, Grumbles?
Yeah. So I'll start with like observations. So my observations are that um I always think that there is a simple correlation with like number of people on. So that will have an effect, I think, because you probably play through like if you're in the EU playing on a EU server and you're playing through the evening and into the night. Going to be a lot of players there. Going to probably be a lot of tired people as well. Maybe people have been playing too long because they got home and had dinner and played, or didn't have dinner and played, whatever. Things like alcohol and whatever else, recreational substances, I'm sure
Hmm.
play into it too. So, like, it's not one particular thing, but I think a combination. I do think that you could observe a difference. For example, when I played on NA server at different times of day, again, you know, lots of different time zones and things coming into play there too. Um, so I think some of those are factors that are very relevant, but immeasurable realistically. I think that players that have played the game for a significant time, as in number of years or number of hours in the game, that kind of thing. Um, there's probably a percentage of them that have uh, um, uh, at least a higher potential to be triggered by certain things because they've gone through more change. And we humanoids are all terrible at dealing with change for the most part, particularly when we perceive things as being better before, or perfect before, or whatever. And you get the sprinkling of nostalgia that goes into that. So of course we're going to think the game was much better X amount of time ago before such and such or whatever. And then you've got the internet element, everybody hiding behind, I'll say silly names because like my name has the word silly in it. So everybody gets their brave pants on suddenly when they're sitting at a computer screen hidden in a basement somewhere or whatever behind a silly name. So all of these things are factors to it, and I think that there is to some degree, certain particular elements of the game that have um, elevated the level of frustration for the player base, probably overall, or certainly the the ones with more hours in the game.
Hmm.
That probably know, for example, before subs were there, before the CV rework and so forth, and whatever. So. And then there's also an element of, there'll be a percentage of people that are just tagging along with, this is the popular thing to dislike right now. That's something that's a outside of the game, that's more of a cultural thing that's crept in over the last whatever decade, I don't know exactly, but there's definitely an element of, in a broader sense, it's easy to sit there and moan and complain, or it always gets me when I see in the in-game chat how that somebody comes up with the old classic, I've got a really shit team, to which I used to reply before I decided that turning the chat off generally was better for my mental health. Which I'll come back to that point in a moment. But I used to reply to that, well, you were in that team.
Hmm.
Because of course you're the brilliant player. You did everything perfectly, and they might have had a good game. But did they have a good game in the sense of supporting their team, or did they just yoink the 5 kills or whatever,
Yeah.
or play the 20-kilometer Torp Shima and get those 3 kills from the BBs that weren't paying attention, for half an hour, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of things where we don't want, want to massage our own ego. We're more than happy to trounce all over everyone else's at a drop of a hat. Sometimes if something's frustrated or irritated us, there's how you're feeling. Are you comfortable, well fed? There's all sorts of things that go into it. And I think that, and then there's the whole, what's popular and trendy to dislike and whatever, and all that bound together in hiding behind an avatar and a fake name on the internet. So I do think that when there's more players online, just as a percentage, there'll be, the bad actors or whatever in there. I do think that certain hours, like wee hours, or here's one observation I can speak to as well, is that I tried a few years back. I created an NA account and started doing my Warships streaming and playing over there most of the time, because I got sick and tired of all of the bad chat and bad actors that I was experiencing in on the EU servers, right?
Mm.
So that was one of the reasons. It wasn't the only reason, but it was one of them. And NA was such a breath of fresh air because people were so engaging, having fun. There was great humor most of the time. You'd get a few, silly moments or whatever, or people having like a mental health crisis for a moment or two, and taking it out on other people lashing out. But overall, it was a really refreshing and enjoyable experience. Nowadays, I don't play on NA so much, but say over the last year or so, when I've hopped over there, I I've seen two things: a significant influx of EU players with second accounts, right, or an NA account, and secondly, a degradation of the quality of chat. In a lot of circumstances. So I know that not all of that is just coming from EU, but there's some sort of antagonism or whatever going on. But I think that's, that probably maps to trends and changes in the game, and also to some extent the influence that streamers and content creators can have, where popularizing chastising of others or deriding them because they have not very good statistics and things like that, or just generally having a borderline, I would describe as like a negative approach to the game and other people that they're playing the game with, and deciding that it's kind of cool and funny. And unfortunately, with Twitch and other content creation, it often is the case. You say something that is either controversial or clickbait, sort of intended to be sort of pseudo controversial, like a throwaway comment, but whatever. I'm sure if I sat there and did a stream or did like an hour-long YouTube video where it was just effing subs this, effing subs that, and I effing hate planes, and blah like that, I'm sure that would probably blow up and be my most popular video, because the community would just latch onto it and go, oh, this is great, this is exactly how I feel. Or maybe I'd do it with humor or whatever. But unfortunately, there's a part of us as a species that can gravitate and latch onto things like that, and then that feeds into it. So I'm not giving content creators the blame for it all, of course not. But between that and the developers and the changes and people not dealing with change very well, and then it's the macro and the micro. It's on a broad scale. Those are sort of my observations and feelings on it. I play these days with the chat turned off, and it makes me sad because I miss out on the fun, the humor, the times when it's good, or when people compliment or appreciate each other, whether it's as someone on the red team or the green team, and I miss that. But for me, I'll call it risk, in my words, of being upset, triggered, or just depressed at reading somebody say, you're cancer, or, go kill yourself because you didn't get a torpedo hit on the sea, whatever. It's so ludicrous and out there that I know rationally, well, don't worry about it. That's somebody having a little mini mental health crisis. I feel sad for them. I hope something picks them up and they get over it. But that lashing out and that sort of pettiness and that losing control of yourself and everything, and then the words people choose to use sometimes, it's too much. And maybe I'm just a big softy or whatever. I know I am, but I don't like it. So I just play with the chat switched off, because I try it every once in a while. I turn the chat back on, and 9 times out of 10, within a few games, I'm like, okay, I'm not reading that.
I,
Oh yeah.
I actually had 2 times today where I told people walk away from the game. If you're having this bad of an experience because of the matches you're being put into, walk away from the game. I might not be the best salesman for World of Warships, but I think honestly, deep down, most of the community team will agree with me that they'd rather have someone go and say, "Oh, this is cool. I get to test my ship now," instead of f this, f that, and so on, and just be salty and angry because some random number generator thing happened to roll against you. So yeah, I had that twice today, and I was like, just let's be very real about the fact that it is pixels. This it's not it does not have a real world implication for you other than you being angry and annoyed at it. So let's just walk away. Find a different virtual world to dig yourself down into if it bothers you this much. And and to that, I want to say further on that to anyone who chooses to lash out at others, care about yourself first. Don't worry about others, worry about yourself first. Play the game the way you want to play it. Don't care that the Amagi is firing high explosives. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect how well you do. Is there a term to be said, or is there an argument to be had? Oh, but it does affect me because he's on my team. No, it doesn't. How well you do with your ship is not affected by how the Amagi is firing his shells. So worry about yourself first. Let's get back to that, because that's something I recently did, because I was starting to get annoyed at everything. I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to optimize my task. I was trying to optimize my missions. Oh, there's 3 fire damage I need to do there, and I need to set fires with that sort of ship there. So if I go in this ship, I'll optimize. And like I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to be so, like, I was trying to do so much at the same time and be the best that I
Mm-hmm.
forgot to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people forget that in this, and we've delved way deeper into this than I first thought we would. But it's an incredibly interesting thought to kind of dig through. Why are we letting ourselves get annoyed at a game? And I did that soul searching, that self searching. Like, why am I getting annoyed at the game? What is it that is making me hot and bothered about this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I figured out it's like, yeah, because I'm not playing how I used to. I'm not playing the game for playing the game anymore. I'm trying to work the system.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play the game for doing requests so that viewers could see a boat. I used to do this for, all right, let's do a weird challenge for ourselves. Let's try to grind 50,000 XP. That's it. Like, let's just do something like that. Instead, it turned into Must always do the best. Can't do request because I'm on this battleship mission. It's just,
Yeah,
if
I
so,
mean that's gamification, right? And
yeah.
and part of that is because wargaming has deliberately, and it's not a criticism per se, but they have changed their game and the way they deliver their content. Sometimes in more subtle ways than sometimes in more obvious ways. But they've changed it to be more gamified and more oriented to that kind of thing, because that they know that has an addictive quality to it, and
Mm,
and that's what they need. They need people to be drawn in. That's why all the new content comes all the time, because they need new people to be like, oh, look, shiny, there's something happening, this game is alive, it's constantly being developed. There's
mm,
so all these factors that are part of somebody choosing to come into a free to play, and then probably at some point get enough addicted to it that they choose to then spend money on it. And then the retention part for people that are there is pretty much based on there are some new challenges. I mean, I see that in other games, and often I react positively to it. I'm like, oh, look, there's some daily quests here for this thing now. That's cool. However, I've learned kind of the hard way, I guess, as well, that I really need to step back and let go of these things. It's like every Friday, as a simple example, when folks are like, "Oh, naval battles and that," I go, "Oh yeah, I got to go and turn that on," and then I get the question like, "What are your doubles?" I don't know. I don't look at it, because if I look at that, then I'll focus, then I'll think about it and
yeah.
I'll act on it. Whereas it's like, if I want to play this ship because it's just fun and it makes me smile, or I'm rubbish at it and I just feel like challenging myself or whatever, then that's what I play. And it like is as a parallel to what you were saying, and I think it's so important to it's it, it's a good thing that we're so emotionally invested and engaged in it and we care as players, but it's also something that everybody in their own way needs to step back and say, okay, where am I at right now? Am I enjoying this or not? I will say this as well, because I think it's quite well known across our communities. I tend to, I could say challenge myself, but I try not to swear too much. Um, Privately, the two things I swear at the most are, apart from stubbing your toe or whatever, but like are typically if I drop something, right, or spill something, and then I'm usually swearing at the inanimate object, saying it's your fault.
Yeah.
Cup, why are you on the floor? I didn't want you to be on the floor. I may have dropped you. That's irrelevant. It's your fault, stupid effing cup,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
That's one thing. I've gotten a lot better with that in my later years, but that's been something my whole life. And the other is World of Warships. I swear the most when I'm not streaming, because I want to just relax, and I'm like, I'm just going to take this shit for a spin or whatever. And I'm normally swearing at myself because I'm like, why did I effing do that?
Yeah.
Or usually the most common one is like, where did those effing shells go? Why was that not an effing citadel or whatever? But it's like, I don't do it constantly. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. But I've noticed it, and it's a funny observation to me. And then I step back and I'm like, okay, let's just close this for now and do something else, because it's
Yeah.
obviously getting under my skin for whatever. And it's probably not even that. It's probably, oh, did you eat anything in the last 10 hours? Oh, no.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 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 Nope. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Made the club
Yeah.
out of it.
Hmm.
Also made the subscription box alternative to it. I think I am the president of that club right now. But yeah.
Hmm.
Is it common in all MMOs? In any game where there's a competitive element, where anyone can rank themselves and others, yes, it will be there, and it will be prevalent in one way, shape, or form, and it's up to us if we let it get to us.
Hmm.
He also has a second question, which was, how many
Hmm.
fruits are thought of as vegetables are there? And which one is the best option that Paintstorm might be duped into consuming? And I'm just going to reflect this back to the community, because I feel it's our job as a community to try to get Paintstorm to eat more vegetables. So, community, let's chime in on this, please. Moving swiftly along, Mari has a few questions for us. Gamescom, would you like to go there one day? And I simply
mhm.
put, for me, yes.
Yeah, I think I would. I don't know, but I know a few years back, wasn't there one with WoWs were at, right? With Conway and Co. Didn't they
They
have
were
those
there this
submarine?
year. Like they're there every year.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. Well, that's just me not being plugged in. But I remember seeing one a few years back, and they had those torpedo plushies and all that, and I thought that
Mm,
would be really fun. I could have gone to that. Um, but if not for work and stuff like that. Nowadays, yeah, I'm not so good with like let's go out and do a thing like I used to be, like concerts or anything else. So I guess I'm like 50-50. I kind of like the idea. Um, and then if I was feeling healthy enough, um, then maybe. But most of the time there'll be something. It'd be like, oh, I'm going to that thing tomorrow. Oh, I've just twisted my ankle. Damn it. Not on purpose, just like something will happen,
yeah.
So I'm so fragile. I should be a robust dwarf, but I guess us wizards don't age as well as we think we do.
Maybe that's something we could, because I would love to do kind of a community thing
Mm,
around it. Just maybe not be there for the entire convention, but like you and I are CCs. That
mm-hmm,
means that instantly we have an in to kind of go
mm-hmm,
talk to the wargaming guys.
mm-hmm,
And I know Chrysanthus was there this year, and many of the others.
mm-hmm,
So just kind of have a few others that want to go, and it's not just World of Warships there. This year there
mm-hmm,
was Starfield. There was so many other games. Like
mm-hmm,
we watched the opening night live show that they had, and there were so many cool things that they showed off, and I was like, okay. And so I think it could be cool to try to do that maybe next year in August, because it's always in August and it's always
mm-hmm.
in the same place in Köln, or Cologne as some would can say.
Yep.
Um so I think that could be cool to try to, yeah, let's go there and meet up, and then maybe the next day, instead of going to Gamescom, we could go do something in the city together. Like, it doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm,
big, it doesn't have to be far, and so on. It's just something to do. But I know that Gamescom is the largest in-person games convention in the world,
mm,
because E3 is not just about games anymore, and none of the others meet up or reach up to that level. So yeah, I think it could be
mm-hmm.
cool. Another quick question from Mari: Starfield hype. Where are you at on the hype scale? Um, okay, Grumbles. What? Where does the hype scale go from and to?
Um, Normally I would say 0 to 69.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go with 0 to 69.
Okay. In that case, I am on uh 65.
Oh,
Honestly.
wow, that's cool.
Yep. How about you?
I am. I am sometimes on 0 because I completely forget that it's coming. Not even kidding. I'm like, oh yeah, Starfield. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of on. I feel like I'm being suckered into a Ghostbuster trap or something. I'm kind of
Yeah.
on 69 because I really want Robot Jeff, so I can blame him for everything that goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the story in that could be fun, but I don't have too much of a basis for it because I've still not managed to play Skyrim and all the other things. But I feel like okay, that it could be quite good. And I'm sure I'm going to be a sucker for like the visuals and being in space and also making my own ship that I then get lost on and all those kind of things because I've built it like asymmetrically and weirdly or whatever. So I think it's got lots of things that I'm super super hyped for. Um, I but you know what it is? It's Baldur's Gate 3's fault. I'm now just scared, even though it's completely different. But I'm just scared of like, oh, is this going to be another $70 game or whatever that I just like for 3 days and then go, yeah. but I can't really role play in it. So I think it's going to come down to how many sandwiches can I steal, how quickly,
Yeah.
how much of a fun. Basically, it's going to come down to how much of a fun story can and how is the pacing, right, of the action and the cutscenes and everything. So similar to Baldur's Gate 3 in the sense of how is the pacing and can I set my own pace so that I can relax. And like we did with Red Dead Redemption 2 is the ultimate example for me. It was so good. 69 out of 69.
Yeah.
It is, because you literally can go through that whole story and all the side quests and all the things, and I probably missed half of it anyway. But you can do that, like literally spread months apart. We did a stint, and then other stuff came up, like Atlas or whatever, and then we came back to it months later, and it was glorious. So I could go through that whole story, and the way the open world and the traveling and all the bits, the coincidental things that you could do it entirely your own pace, gave me the playground to go and role play and do whatever we wanted, you know. And then eventually that led into playing online, and then that led into playing RP servers of it. Fantastic experiences. But so if Starfield can give me, because I know there's all the procedurally generated and go everywhere, but then there's the story hub places as well. So if it can give me that Red Dead Redemption 2 degree of here's all the sort of linear stuff and stories you can go through, and here's the rest of the universe that you can just go and do nonsense in, with NPCs or whatever, little towns and things to discover and stuff like that, then it could be, it'll be another 69 out of 69. But if it boxes me in and says either you've got a no man's space kind of thing, and I know a lot of people love that, but for me, where it feels very empty and like there's void of anything, like I have to generate any kind of content in that I want to do, so it means I need a lot of extra energy and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it's because that's the procedural stuff is like that, and it feels very empty, then, and the story part is very linear and very railroad, then it won't work for me. I fear, but we'll have to see.
We'll have to see, but I do believe that some of the things that you want from it will definitely be there. Like, at least from how I interpret some of the things that pop up during the hype trailers and so on. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing elements that would make me believe that I will have that freedom. So, but we won't know until we actually get into it. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that was a very quick answer there. This is also going to be a very quick answer for me. I don't think I'm able to properly answer it, but How to Survive the Heat, a 101 by Tiger and Grumbles. I will always say, give me the cold first and foremost, because I can always light shit on fire or get more dressed and so on. When it's warm, there's a limit to how naked I can get and how many fans I can put on, or if it will have any effect at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have struggled, but all I know is the fan and the use of like wet towels draped over my shoulders being hit by
Mm-hmm.
the fan has cooled me down enough to keep me alive. And we're talking, I did this while I also had COVID, so there was the double of fever and this. I there were days where I only walked around in my boxer shorts because I couldn't do anything. It was just, yeah, sit still and don't do anything. That's mine. I couldn't even stream.
Yep. For me, it was, I kind of just stopped eating. Like that was slowing me down additionally.
Yeah.
And the worst thing was like we had the super hot phase for a couple of weeks, and that was kind of like, oh, this is annoying. But then it went into like a week or so where it was cool, and I was like, great, summer's over, this is awesome. And then Mother Nature just went, how about loads of humidity and some heat, but not like enough to burn off the humidity or anything. Just
Yeah.
like, how about if it's just like 69 to 100% humidity for like 8 weeks. How would you enjoy that? And then they threw in a couple of hot days in August as well. So I mean, technically summer for Northern Hemisphere or whatever, but it was a weird one this year. I mean, I suppose the weather's always,
Always getting weirder.
they're always getting weirder, and we just think in the context of our own lifetime and our own short memories, but it definitely felt like a super weird one this year. And the humidity, like I was having days where it was like I can't really breathe very well. And I don't have, that I'm aware of, a particularly bad breathing issue, thankfully. um uh but it was like I was taking shallow breaths
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't want to take a deep breath because it feels like I'm breathing in milkshake or something.
Yeah, the hot, humid air.
Hmm.
Like if I breathe that in, I just like, no, no, my body reacts, but nope, this is not fun. This is not good. This is not
Hmm.
supposed to be here. So I don't know, man. Just stay hydrated, everybody. That's pretty much all I can give you, really. That
Hmm.
or come visit me in August, and there will be colder weather. Mari has something to smile about and a little victory
Hmm.
that she wants to share. Her little victory is first and foremost that she survived COVID without any so far known long term effects, and the same goes for me. Still have a tiny bit of a cough, but I don't feel like I'm depleted or anything. And she seems to be back to full kind of woo, so that's good. And
Awesome.
and her something to smile about is I have a ship in a bottle.
I've
um,
seen it.
yeah,
It looks awesome.
a quick story there is I saw something on TikTok. I shared with her. She went, "Ooh, I need that," and it was this maybe 2-inch long little enclosure with two different oils in it and a ship on top of one of the oils, so it looked like the black pearl was bouncing around. I went on Amazon, bought one, and it showed up, and it was much larger than expected because it was meant to be able to sit on her dashboard in her car as she was
Hmm.
driving. But yeah, no, this was larger, much larger, but she loved it. So there's that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then we have a question from Diurach by Proxy. Proxy being StatsBloke. That's a long story. I won't get into it right now. But he just simply asks, "Why is Grumbles the dwarf? What did he do with the others? Do we have an
uh,
answer to it, and do we want to know?"
well, sort of. Firstly, I can't confirm or deny the current health status of any of the other dwarfs. Um, Shut up, you lot. Get back in your box. I no, it's more that I would advise people to read it as a sort of um more of a pastime or a particular sort of a momentary position on life, rather than reading it as Grumbles the dwarf or Grumbles the dwarf. Read it more like Grumbles, comma the dwarf, as in he grumbles, because
Hmm.
that's where it comes from. It comes from a D&D character that I played many moons ago, way before the streaming and all the rest of it. And it was just a really, really fun streaming. It was a really fun role playing experience. And I played this hill dwarf wizard who was a bit clumsy with fireballs and things. Now that I think about it, I hadn't
Awkward.
really genuinely hadn't thought about that until just now. And yeah, and he was kind of like grumbly, but had a good heart and full of humor, kind of thing. So I guess a little bit like me, because I was quite new to role playing at that point. So it was like, well, I'll just go with some things I'm vaguely familiar with and make a bit of a caricature or an exaggeration of some of those things, and we'll see where it goes. And it turned into an awesome, like, I think we played with that group for a couple of years. And one of the players from that group ended up inviting to come and play with us in our current group, and she pops into stream and has fun laughing at silly Skinny Pete and things like that. So it's great how you can build up all these friendships over all these years through roleplay. So there you go. That's the answer to that question. Probably not what people necessarily expected.
Long and short of it.
Mm.
Eh?
Yeah,
Eh?
right. I
Eh?
see what you did there. It's good. It's good.
StatsBloke has a question for us. You both now use StreamerBot, which was just updated to version 2.0. What has been the best thing StreamerBot has enabled you to do with your streams?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, for me, to have full control of all sorts of alerts and everything I want to do in one and the same place without being restricted to you can only have this many commands, you can only have this many blah blah blah. You need to pay for premium. There's none of that. The account is my own. The alerts are my own. I have full control, and I absolutely love it. And the more I learn about it, the more the opportunities it just really opens up for me, and I'm so glad that Stats introduced me to it because it's such a powerful tool for streamers.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
So I mean, I guess it somewhat comes down to functionality. I totally echo all of your points and that sentiment. I agree. Having things in your own hands to control is a good feeling. Um, the so I've got a 2-part answer. The best thing for me personally as a streamer, and I know this is talking about using one of the features of it, but the best part, which coincides obviously with Twitch developing their API and the functionality, is the advertisement announcement.
Oh
The fact
yes.
that you can trigger an announcement on your channel with whatever other actions you want to go with that. So for me, I've got an announcement in Twitch chat, so it's nicely highlighted and obvious, and says what I want it to say, and then I've got it tied into a soundbite that runs as well. Um, it was just is just such a huge boon because I was so stressed with the whole ad revenue thing and running ads. I used to just do them manually
Hmm.
whenever I was ready to take a break, and then they shifted gears on us, the way they did, and it was, especially at the beginning, it was an absolute mess. And when that API and the bot functionality fell in line with each other, and you could do those announcements, and I set that up, and I helped Cletus Buford to set his up, and a couple other people asked me for guidance and whatnot, and it was just such a blessing because it took that huge stress. Like, I can't explain to people how stressful it was because adverts are just bloody annoying, and if we could, we'd live without them. But again, it's part of our livelihood, and it's regardless what you're doing with that income, it is incredibly helpful to have, and way less intrusive than television or even cinemas. You sit through more adverts waiting for your film to start and stuff. So anyway, that's the one part, and the other part is, and this is just the ability to trigger things even on other apps or other processes
Yeah.
on your computer.
Oh yeah.
Specifically for me, and it's probably similar for you, the unfortunately now deceased or no longer supported and Snapcam, because without that I wouldn't have Don't Skip Leg Day or Gollum Cam or Bobby Flawless Mustache Very Drunk Guy that people can do to put as filters onto the camera. So that I'm giving that part of it because on behalf of chat, because chat will be like, announcements for ads, boo, boring hiss, where's Gollum face? So there you go. Or
Yeah.
don't skip leg day, I think has become the most popular. So there you go.
There are other tools that allow us to do these integrations and such, but
Mm.
it's like at least maybe for us who have worked within IT and have a very strong understanding of technology and the tie-ins, it is such a beautiful tool,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty much only limited to your imagination of what you want to do with it. I'll actually be that strong of a statement on it. It is
Mm.
wonderful, it truly is. And yeah, what you said about the ads, I want to add on to that, to Twitch and kind of the content creator part that we talked about earlier. Thank you, Twitch, for now allowing mods and editors to see when ads are starting. I just want to point that out.
Mhm.
So hopefully there will be more tools that we can use with StreamerBot at some point to give us like a 5-minute warning on top of that. Like
Mhm.
it clearly is in the API. So if we now know that, we can adjust our role play sessions or when the
Mm.
police are coming in the background. I'm so sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No, it's all good. The funny thing is, when it happens, I've had some during the session here, and then you've had some, and I think there's like been 2 at your end and 1 here.
Hmm.
And every time I'm listening, and I can't really, because it's so clear, I can't discern. Hang on, are they coming for me or are they coming for you?
Yeah, I don't have all the microphone filters here. Anyway,
Oh, it's all good.
so yeah, no, that is genuinely the wonderful thing about StreamerBot for us. But for anyone else who's a streamer out there, um, feel free to ask us questions about the things you would want to do with StreamerBot, and we can see if that is a possibility. Bluetinum has like, I don't think he's expecting a long answer on this, and he's not going to get the long answer because it is pretty definite. He's actually mentioning the thing in the question itself. He asks, biggest regrets as far as donation slash sub goals go. 1 hour of uwu or whatnot, and I'm like, and we were both like, yeah, there is no, there is no competition.
Mhm.
Like it broke me, but not only me, but it also broke Grumbles, and it's just,
Yep.
I didn't see it being that bad, but as it grew, I was like, yeah, no, I'm never doing this again, never ever. And if I am, I'm certainly not doing it in a multiplayer session.
Mhm.
Like, and even then, a full hour, no, because it's, you get new people coming in and they're like, oh, okay, I thought this guy was cool and now he's just making nonsense noises, and there's nobody,
Mhm.
like, he can't even explain, like, there's nothing he can do about explaining. Yeah, no, I'm never ever doing anything like that. Shaving my hair, coloring my beard, maybe even shaving my beard, sure, that just takes time to get back. Full hour woo woo? No, it's no. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Mhm.
We're at the end, Grumbles.
Wow.
Yet again, we have made a monster episode. And we have the last part that we always include, and it's, of course, something to smile about. And before we jump into these, I want to say to people, please share with us your little victories, your big victories, like your victories. And do not be afraid of sharing them, because they don't have to be big. They don't have to be, oh, mundane or whatever. If you see it as a victory, we really want to hear it, so that we can share it with others. So please do this, because that is also something that makes us smile. If you have something that made you smile, let's hear that too. That is something we do in community contributions now. It's not just questions. We want to hear everything from you guys. But first and foremost, I'm gonna jump straight in on something to smile about here,
Mhm.
and talk about a positive interaction that actually has to do with you too.
Mhm.
Because this last Friday we were playing in the Grumbling, and one of the games we had, we met a poor said 31. Me and a Harikaze, you and an Asashio.
Mhm.
Like, even if he was fully optimized, he wouldn't have had a chance in hell of actually seeing us unless he stumbled upon us.
Mm-hmm.
and we opened up and tore him a new one, and he was in all chat. It was like, oh my god, these Japanese DDs are no joke. I can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I answered, oh, you mean the Kagero hull DDs? Yes. They go down to 5.4 kilometers in detection. And he's like, yeah, no, it's insane. And I've never gotten them past 6 point something, he said. And just by kind of talking a tiny bit, like it wasn't a massive one, but just replying properly to him, not being snarky, not being, oh, you noob, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, like, you sent me a screenshot of something that showed up in your port afterwards.
Yep.
And Equitas Max, if you're listening, thank you for this, honestly. He wrote to Grumbles in a port message. Hello, I was a SED31 a game or two ago. Would you mind if I joined you in a platoon with you and your friend? Is it okay if you don't want to? It's okay if you don't want to, but I would be happy to learn and get advice. All this from just a tiny positive way of answering, instead of being snarky or toxic or the you noob, go play Hello Kitty online or whatever, you know. It's just through that,
Mm-hmm.
I think we created a slightly more positive experience for him. And I don't think, or her, like they, I don't think this person is fully understanding what that did for my positivity rating of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
I was genuinely happy to see that. That was really really good, and hopefully I'm able to have them on my stream one day so that I can teach them some things, or continue that good conversation, so that maybe that's one less toxic asshat in the game.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and he seemed to not take it too bad or get toxic when I told him to go and play Hello Kitty. Yeah, no, it was a delight to get that, and obviously we were finished for the day, so
Yeah.
just sent him back a friendly reply saying, yeah, come hang out when we do stuff. And I agree. Hopefully you can if you just get one person and give them a good experience and a reciprocal sort of situation, it's awesome, right? So it's kind of ironic that I got the message in port, considering I'm the guy that didn't see the chat because I have it switched off in the game. I love it. There's obviously something with my silly name that was easier to spot. I
Yeah,
remember.
like that, or I think I might have port messages off. No, I don't.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
them. I'm unsure. I need to double check that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was good. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
What is your little tidbit to smile about
Yeah.
in today's episode?
Well, I've got something to smile about that revolves, partially at least, around a great ass. Donkey, that is. Uh, with all the silliness and role playing and things that I do, it's one of the things I treasure in that the most is sharing that with everybody in the community, and there's a lot of folks that sort of get a little bit of the urge and inspiration to go and pick up role playing again or try it the first time or whatever, and in this particular case, both Kidney Cowboy and the Guru, streamer friends of ours and familiar with all of our communities, have were inspired or depressed by what I did. Either way, I don't know. To go and play Red Dead Redemption 2 and try their hand at a little bit of role play, a little bit of playing the game and getting a feel for it, and me sort of giving them a little nudge, saying, "Yeah, just talk to some of the NPCs. You don't have to overcomplicate it or have like a 2-page backstory and all the rest of it. Just come up with some silly thing. It could be a tick, how you talk, how you walk, whatever, and roll with it and see how people receive it." And now both of them are like knee deep in donkey poop, having a whale of a time throwing themselves, accidentally, as Red Dead, which is just a fantastic product, gives you plenty of opportunity to sort of run off that ledge that you didn't see because it looked like smooth land and you didn't pay attention or whatever. So both of them, and Kidney in particular, has started putting lots of clips together and that. And it just gives me a smile every time I see one because because of what that game can give, and it's just so nice to see people who weren't previously at least not confident about giving roleplay a go and everything to see them both embracing it. And I've watched a bit of both of them doing it in clips and live when I've had the chance, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, kudos to them for sort of giving it a go and embracing it and sharing that with their communities and the world. And yeah, just really nice to see things like that. It just made me smile no end. Just the most famous, the infamous one that I've seen was a clip of Guru rushing into the scene as Kidney's talking to some other people and just running him over with his donkey. And then shouting something as he goes past, like, "Oh my God, I didn't know it was that fast. I'm sorry," kind of thing. Pretty damn funny.
I can hear them in my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Guru's going around everywhere telling everybody in the RP, "I've got the finest ass in 3 counties." Good stuff.
Oh no, I can't confirm. They are absolute wonders to behold as they derp their way around the world and enjoy. There are so many there are so many clips and everything. So yeah, do go check them out. Yeah. But that's been it for us for today. We tried to make it a shorter episode. It didn't work, and nobody was surprised. So, without further ado, I'm going to leave you guys with a little bit of wisdom from yours truly, actually. When in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. That's all. I don't have anything. No, not really. But that's gonna be it for today. Thank you everybody for exiting to port together with us. So it's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Grumbles.
Good vibes, everyone.
Goodbye.